And thank you all for being here today. So some of what we're going to do is a share out opportunity. We're going to do break rooms one more time. And again, this is an opportunity for all of you to connect and get to know one another a little bit. We're going to take a few more minutes this time. And what I'm hoping is that we can bring some of the successes about what's happening in schools back to this room. So I'm going to put us into about 6 or 7 breakout rooms. And what I hope is that each group is willing to share when they get back. So here we go again. And you'll get about 8 minutes this time. Welcome back, everyone. Sorry. I'm hoping that we can share some of what you guys heard.
I'll go first then. So in my group, we had Jolene from Head Start, and the families at Head Start have been meeting to go to Quarry Hill. So they already had one meeting where uh, many families registered, and about half showed up, but that's still really good. And most of these people had never been to Quarry Hill, so that was exciting. Um, and then I got to meet Joanne at Bamber, and her and I were talking about how excited we are to actually try and host a social event at our schools. So Sunset will have, we're hoping to do an ice cream social for the first time. And so we're a little bit rusty because COVID has not allowed us to organize things. And so now we just need to get the turtle faster speed into a rabbit mode to get stuff done. So that's pretty much the highlight of our little group.
And Joanne had mentioned as well that they are being affected. Bamber is being affected by boundary changes too. So we talked a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, that conversation is coming up with a lot of parents in the evening meetings and that sort of thing that I hold as well. And I do hope to connect with some of our Somali families on Thursday night because I know that Sunset Lucy as a parent is being impacted greatly and Bamber as well. Yeah. Okay, that was one group. 6 more to go. You guys don't make me wait.
I can mention something from the group I was in. Janine is a parent who's also being a substitute teacher now. And it was wonderful listening to her talk about all the schools in which she's subbed and the joy that she has in being a substitute. I have never connected those two terms, substitute teaching and joy. That was great. And also, had a number of really, really good suggestions about how we can make that position better and how we can make sure that our schools welcome substitutes and also how we support them better before they go into a building, the things they need to know and the resources they have to have.
That's fabulous. Thanks, Jean.
I can talk about our group. Darcy was sharing from Pinewood that she was just in the process of counting some paw slips for their school store they're utilizing. And Darcy, you might have to help me. A curriculum that is connected to the 7 habits of highly effective people. But there's what is it called, Darcy?
Leader in Me.
A Leader in Me program at Pinewood. So really implementing that and then having a school store as one of the outcomes. That was really fun. Maggie shared a little bit about a sledding event that they had this winter right after school. That seemed like really low prep, but lots of fun and being able to still bring people together outdoors in a safe way with some stations for hot cocoa and other things. That was really cool. Nicole talked about the first ever ALC school dance. And I am just like over the moon about how fun that's going to be this Friday night with a bingo element. So we had a great conversation. Thank you, group.
Julie McLaren, can you share what you talked about?
Sure. If it sounds like there's a waterfall here, we have like the school's largest marble run happening in the background. So I'll try to avoid that. We have, we're making a cookbook and it's a project we started in September and we've collected over 100 recipes from our families at our school and community members and lots of alumni and grandparents connected to our school and local businesses. And we have a live version that's hanging out on our website that's colorful and interactive and has pictures and video links to things like how wild rice is harvested. And then we are making a print version too that will go home to all of our families in school. That'll be like a smaller black and white version that they'll have, and then with links and QR codes to scan back to our digital version. So if you check out the link in the chat, you'll be able to see the cookbook in progress. It's updated there about every couple of days. So there will be more recipes on there than what's printed. But a pro tip on that is if you download it, the links will be live. But if you just view it online, for some reason, Google doesn't like to open those links. So, but enjoy that one. If you need some cooking ideas, there are some fabulous options from all over the world in that one.
Thank you so much, Julie. That is super cool. We also learned something. Janine, would you mention your exciting news from Franklin?
Yeah, sorry for that. We have some interesting technical things now that we're sharing in office, but behind me, you can see Miss Kara Merrill, who is our new community schools site facilitator. So we're super excited to have her here, and just tons of ideas being brought up, and lots of things in the works. So we're just really excited about that.
Awesome. Thank you. Did we miss any groups? I lost count. Again, English major. Brian,
Okay,
yeah.
I can. Oh, go ahead, Deneen, if you want to go for it. Or is it Claudia? Yeah, our
Hi,
group.
Brandy, was Claudia.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, we had Sarah from Hoover, Churchill Hoover, share with us about their food pantry at Hoover, and that it happens 3 times per week, and anywhere between 50 and 70 kids benefit from that. And Brian also shared a bit about the 21st century programming that's happening in Riverside, Gage, Boys and Girls Club for the younger kids, and then for the older kids at JM Century and at ALC and at Boys and Girls Club as well. And also an interesting tidbit of information about the garden at ALC and how they have a beekeeping operation going down there, and they grow and consume their own food. So that's pretty awesome stuff. And at the food pantry at Hoover, kids basically help to run that program. They get the food, serve, send flyers, and basically help to manage that process. So it was interesting to hear about those 2 exciting things.
Thank you, Deneen.
And our group, we had Peter Lawrence, Rebecca Minkins, and Councilwoman Dennis. And Rebecca shared about work the Diversity Council is doing with school-age kids, and it's fascinating. So I'm going to go tap on her to find out more about that. Councilwoman Dennis shared with us all the efforts the city is doing in mental health and equity, diversity, and inclusion too. And those are great efforts, but the one that I am fascinated by the most is Peter's update on the transportation fare. Mom of 3 boys, my kids are grown up, but it was something that we would never ever miss. So I am excited to hear that now it's in 2 different locations, better accessibility, more access to more people get to see the things that are going on in the city. And that is still happening. It was just such a wonderful thing. And I am really, really excited to hear that it keeps on growing. So thank you so much, Peter, for sharing that. It's really the highlight that warms my mom's heart today.
Thank you so much. And anything that you guys would like either on the family engagement calendar or me to share out with the group, if you want to share like the transportation dates, fair dates, I would love to share those district-wide. So send those my way, Peter, and we'll make sure your day is jam-packed if that's what you want. Well, thank you everyone for the share outs. I hope, May 14th, I'll get those in the notes and make sure that we get them shared out. I hope that we got everyone. Did everyone who had a chance to or want a chance to speak, take a chance to speak? Okay. sorry. Since we are so close to the end of the year, I am going to touch a little bit on learning at home. I am reading a current book that was recommended by one of our elementary school principals, and it's called Make It Stick, The Science of Successful Learning. And there are things about the book that I've been reflecting on about how, as parents, we have opportunities to apply some of these rules, and then as educators, how we approach what we do, not always effectively. And there are some different things that I've been reflecting on. And that's not to put the burden on our educators necessarily about their process. It's just something I'm learning in the book. The book has kind of 3 premises. And so I want to present a little bit of information first, and then I'll give everyone an opportunity to, again, to like small group and reflect on the premises of the text, and then what we carry with us in our own belief system, and what we have the opportunity, how we have the opportunity to impact our students as parents, and then also as educators. Every time I change slides, it mutes. So you guys might have to continue to tell me that I'm muted. I'll try and pay better attention. So the information that we've talked about in the past in this meeting about being a learning hero, the book talks about as well and asks the question, who is responsible for learning? And in the way that they define learning in this text is that it's acquiring skills and knowledge that are readily available from our memory so we can solve future problems. It talks about things like, in this particular text, it talks about like someone having trouble, a pilot having trouble while he's flying the plane, and the choices he makes as he lands the plane are a direct reflection of the knowledge and skills that he had to take from his memory. And we all experience that through the course of. So learning heroes ask the question of parents, and this is parents across the nation, regardless of demographics, regardless of socioeconomic status, who has the responsibility for in-school success? And this is the more recent statistics, 2019. I'd be interested in what it looks like post-pandemic, but the idea definitely is that parents put the primary responsibility on their child. Now, whether that's a lens you would agree with or don't agree with, that result is kind of surprising to me. So again, I'm presenting in the information in the hopes that we can reflect as a group a little bit on this, and then talk about how it applies to the learning we do at home. Another statistic from the Being a Learning Hero information is that regardless, again, of race, income, education, parents believe that their children are at or above grade level in reading and math. And we know that in Rochester, it's closer to around, I think, 40 or 50, in that hovers around that 40 or 50% range. So even in Rochester, for example, only about half of our students are at or above grade level work. And when you look at the statistic, the disconnect between what parents think and then what is reality, again, it offers us an opportunity, I think, to examine how we learn and the information that we share, both from the perspective of an educator and a parent. So the book, and this is kind of what I want you to reflect on as we move forward. Learning requires memory so that what we've learned is still there when we need it. So Sometimes we've heard the story, well, I'm never going to use linear algebra. So why do I need to learn that? And again, I'm just presenting problems, not solutions. But then I would say, who decides? So who decides what learning is important? Is it as a parent or is it as a teacher? And is that something that we can reflect on as well as we move forward? Right now, we know that our standards require certain issues be presented in the classroom. And we know that some of these we speed past. So do things like grading for learning help to build on the memory portion and the learning that we need in the schools? I would say yes. The book continues to explore problem-solving situations, like if you're driving down a slippery road, what do? We know that you slow down, pump the brakes, turn into the spin Barbie, as they say with Toy Story. All of those pieces are from our memory, and it's information that we learned and will still need later. So this is one premise the book is presenting. The second premise is that we have to remember, our remembering is for all our lives. It requires that we remember all our lives. So those driving skills, we continue to remember them and we can draw from them when they're needed. Why is it important to raise lifelong learners? Is the learning the most important, or is the grading the most important? Again, connecting back to some of the changes that are happening with grading for learning, and as you reflect as a parent moving forward and into the summer, I just ask that you keep in mind, our goal is to raise lifelong learners. What we know that is, if you're good at learning, you have an advantage throughout life. So teaching kids to be good learners is sometimes as important as teaching them the actual subject matter. And through those years, we say those 0 to 18 years of education, we know that that a lot more comes with those years more than reading and math. It's, responsibility and kind of all those good things that kids take with them after they leave school. The third premise that the book looks at is that learning is an acquired skill. And I bring this up because we are born to be learners, but we can work as parents and caregivers to create stronger learners. And part of that means that letting kids solve the problem before the solution is being taught, which means we have to leave room for failure. And this goes along with some of our grading for learning practices as well. So what I want you to do is just kind of think about some of the things about the disconnect potentially between what we know, where our students are achieving and what the public perception is about our students achieving, that learning can be a skill, and that grading for learning supports the effort that we're actually teaching subject matter rather than working toward grades. And what I would like you to do is just choose one person to lead a discussion in your small groups. We're going to break out into small groups and talk about either one takeaway or one thing that it makes your mind think about as we've presented some of these statistics. So just gonna again put you into breakout rooms. I apologize to those of you who got cut off last second.
Well, and Melissa, I know you muted everything just because you got tired of listening to me. You're not the first. You're not the first.
Julie loves small group. Yay. Okay, so some share outs about what you learned and what you talked about. Thanks for joining us, Peter.
I'll chime in. So Sarah and Deneen were in my group or with me. I think from my perspective, I've talked about this a lot, is what is the philosophy of our educational system? What is it we're actually trying to do? And the frameworks that we're trying to do it in. We have different models from different countries that, show how successful they are at implementing their models compared to where we are implementing ours. And to me, there has to be some sort of seismic shift in the way we approach education generally in the 21st century. Trying to get small kids to sit in a classroom to teach them math. I mean, yeah. For me, no, not really. Not in the way we do it, not in the regimented way we do it. And again, I'm not in the classroom all the time, obviously. It's not been my purview, but I don't see a lot of difference from the way I was taught 30, 40 years ago than I do now. This classrooms are set up exactly the same. It's, for large portions of the time, it's teacher driven. And so on and so forth. I mean, could talk endlessly about it. And again, in terms of the grant perspective, when we were not rewriting, but renewing our grant for cohort 7, I was asked a direct question from MDE, why are you supporting these middle schools when they're not, at the free and reduced lunch level that they're supposed to be at 50% or whatever? So I did my research and went back and said, well, here's why. Because our kids are reading at 30% of our kids are reading at grade level, 70% art, 70% art functioning at math level. So even having to find that information out to justify why we're in there delivering these after school programs was real eye-opening for me. This is where we're at. And then the philosophy is, well, how do you change that? How do you improve that? And we also talked a little bit, because we talked about it in our first conversation, are those barriers to learning that the school is not directly responsible for. We're not responsible for the kids coming to school having, not slept well the night before, or coming hungry, or not knowing where they're going to sleep, when they leave that school building. But yet we're being asked to support all that or help, mediate all that stuff. So, that feeds into, so how do we in the school system mitigate some of those factors which are out of our control? How much support can we do to do that? And we are doing it. There's, we've got food banks in schools, we've got food being produced that's being distributed to the community and so on and so forth. But how much of that then is taking away from the learning that should be happening? So, lots of kind of discussions around those topics. I'll shut up now. He knows me well enough on these things.
Thank you, Brian. Others?
I'll talk, I guess. I'll volunteer. I love the philosophy behind Grading for Learning. And we talked about it a little bit in our group, how it's worked differently for our different kids and their different personalities and needs. My oldest, honestly, it's been a little bit of a nightmare for. She's in 8th grade and she also has ADHD. And her takeaway is oh, I don't have to turn in any of my assignments until the last 2 weeks of the quarter. And these deadlines are just guidelines, soft guidelines. She calls them. I'm like, no, they're due dates. They're due dates. Turn it in. So that's something we stress out a lot about as a family. And I think it's incredibly stressful for her because it's constantly in the back of her head, like, oh, I have this assignment due. It's all this stuff is piling up. And then it's easier for her to get distracted and procrastinate because she feels like she has so much time left. And she's not learning her lesson. Like, I know the theory is, okay, she's going to walk away and she's going to realize how stressful that experience was. And then next quarter, she's going to be on track and learn from it. But she's not learning that because she still pulls off straight A's. And, and so then the next quarter, we're in the same place. So I would say, and the other point I would say is we have to really make sure that if we do carry on with grading for learning, that we make sure it's equitable amongst all the teachers, because some teachers have completely bought in and are redoing the tests and doing it the way that, and then there's other teachers that aren't. And so if one kid has a high school math teacher that will let you retake as many tests and then this one doesn't, then that's not really fair. You're both taking Algebra 1. So to really make sure that everyone's on the same page. And then maybe if there was some more structure, so like you still have to turn in this paper, but if you don't understand how it was supposed to be written or the format, you have an opportunity to redo it, but you can't just blow off everything because that's not how the real world works either. And then they're going to get out there and there's going to be deadlines depending on what they do with their life. And they're, let them learn it now in middle school that there are consequences for putting things off.
Well, and I was in Joanne's group too, and I can just tell you, I have a 15-year-old in 9th grade, and he also has ADD, and he's struggling. Like it's all about, well, it doesn't matter because it's formative or summative. This one counts, this one doesn't. I don't have to do my assignments because they don't count. I can retake the test as many times as I want to get my grade up. And he is struggling with this whole concept. And then he gets behind, and then his mental health suffers. He's stressed out all the time because he's like, I have to get my grades up. So, yeah. And I understand the premise behind it too. But it has been a struggle, and it has definitely been a concern. And I don't know if it's just children and the way they're motivated, because he is also a child that isn't super excited about school. And it makes me sad because I think about all the times that like learning was so much fun. And that's the times that children are going to learn if they see there's joy in it. And, it's just hard. It's a really hard piece. So I just wanted to add on to what Joanne had said, that it is kind of a struggle.
I'm reflecting a little bit on both of what Joanne and Jelaine said. So my son has graduated a couple of years ago, but also was an ADHD kid, and school was hard. It's he did well. He always kind of managed to pull it together. But I'm sympathetic to that. I sometimes wonder, as parents, if I made it easier or harder for him, and so that's just what I'm listening to and kind of wondering and reflecting, and it may be disconnected to part of this conversation, but I'm basically saying, like Joanne and Jelaine, I hear you, and I'm sympathetic to that experience for sure. And to tell you both my kids had, like Emma had a 504 and Jack's, struggled as well. And they're both in college and doing okay. So those late middle school, early high school years are really hard.
With that being said, I want to just say one last thing along this line is my middle child, though, also was a very hands-on learner, and he went to Stout for 2 years and did construction management, and the pandemic hit, and he was like, I can't do this, Mom. I can't do this online learning stuff. And now he's in the Ironworkers Union as a trade, and he loves it. So I just think that's the other avenue, is that I was so wanting to push him toward college, but he was so pushing, like, okay, I'll try it for 2 years, but he wanted something different. And I'm like so sad that I wanted him to have the experience, but yet I'm so glad he found his own way, because he's happy doing what he's doing, and he's making great money, and he's learning on the job. And so there's definitely, for those kids that are out there that college isn't their thing, trade schools are a really good option.
Can I share a little bit of a different perspective? This is Julie, the mom. I have a kid who has very high anxiety and struggles with perfectionism and puts a lot of pressure on herself. So the setting that we have for her, she meets her own deadlines. She doesn't need support with school. She follows deadlines, but holds herself incredibly accountable for her own grades. And what Grading for Learning has offered her is a safety net, that it doesn't have to be perfect the first time. You can learn from your mistakes and correct them and improve. And I've seen huge growth from her, the way she thinks about herself with her anxiety. The Grading for Learning has offered her second chances. And I do think we get that in the real world. I was thinking a little bit about projects and deadlines. Yes, in the real world, I have projects I need to complete by a specific deadline. But if there's something in that project that needs to be amended, I get a second chance. I get to, keep working on it and get it to a point where it's ready to move forward. So, in our house, this has been good for my kid. But I also hear your perspectives too, the other parents that are sharing, and I'm grateful for them. So this is a hard one, and I think we have to really make sure that we're thinking about every kid and finding something that works for every kid. And in a large system, that takes a lot of work.
Thank you, Julie, for that perspective. Again, if you want to do kind of your own home study, it's Make It Stick is what I'm reading. Happy to talk more about it afterward and share more. We can bring back someone from Grading for Learning as well to talk. If the group would like more feedback from like Heather Woolman or that sort of thing, we can do that too. So I did want to offer some opportunity, just if you are looking at learning at home this summer. There's some educational apps that the links are connected here, and I will send this PowerPoint out so that you'll all have links to the app and we'll be able to see these different opportunities. The best, the one that I wanted to mention too, as someone that I've checked out as a kid with ADHD, the social emotional learning link, Stop, Breathe, and Think is really good too. And then I have not been sponsored by Scholastic, but if anyone from Scholastic is listening, I'm willing to. No, I'm just kidding, of course. I would never take a gift or coffee or lunch or, yeah. So Scholastic Learning at Home, they offer some really great free resources for parents and families. And it's all the way from littles to teens. They have tons of offerings. So if you are looking for some resources for this summer, this is another good one. I'm going to talk about the updates and information that we have, but I also included in here some of linking, kind of creating a through line, linking learning at home to the resource and information that's available in the community right now. So there are some community education dates and that sort of thing in these updates as we move forward. Graduation right around the corner, June 4th. You notice each of the schools has 2 times, 10 and 12 at Century, noon and 2 at John Marshall, and then Mayo, 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. Kids get to choose the session they want to graduate in. So make sure that if you're a parent, you have reflected on that so they can be in the same group as their friends, or if you need to scooch out early, 9 a.m. is a good time. School Board Academy, we have one more opportunity coming up, Monday, April 18th. Jean Marvin is leading that wonderful experience. No? I thought you were.
No, Julie Workman and Melissa Amundsen are. There's 2 sessions.
Oh, yeah.
First one was last night, and the one next Monday is going to be just a continuation.
Oh, okay. I thought they were 2 separate things. So sorry, you're not welcome.
Yep.
We are having a math and science night on April 28th for our EL families from 5:30 to 7 at Willow Creek. This generally is a huge draw event. It should be lots of fun. We do lots of science experiments and math games, and there's going to be bikes there for kids to ride as well and try out. So that should be a fun night. We usually get around 200 people, so it's a pretty good, fun experience. We also have the powwow coming up, celebrating our Native American graduates. So that will be May 21st at, it says 1 p.m. is the entry, but Julie, remind me of the time.
1 p.m. till roughly 6 p.m. at Mayo High School field.
Oh, awesome. It's outside this year.
It is.
And yeah, that's going to be so fun. So, and everyone is welcome. It's a great experience. If you've never been, it's amazing to watch the talents of the drummers and the dancers. It's pretty cool. So mark your calendars if you get a chance. Honor some of our kids at the powwow. We are doing another Braids, Bikes, and Books. Our one at Gage was off the charts. We had like 30 RSVPs and I think we had 85 attend. So we were scrambling a little bit, and we're going to do things a little bit differently this time. It'll be at Riverside, but it will be equally fun. Families got a chance to learn some braiding, ride some bikes. We had kids that came in on training wheels that left without them. We had kids that had never been on a bike get a chance to ride a bike, which for me was the absolute burned in my memory, most fun. Watching just kids that haven't had a chance to ride a bike was really cool. This is April is Child Abuse Prevention Month, and the county is doing some really great virtual seminars. So there's children of incarcerated parents. We do have a lot of kids that have experienced that in Rochester Public Schools. So it's a great opportunity to learn a little bit more about what that's like from the perspective of a student. And then internet and social media. So there's a couple opportunities to join the Voices of Children for Olmsted County events. And that link is on the bottom of this page and will go out as well with these slides. Community ed, there are a ton of community education. So again, after school opportunities at all of our middle schools. if you're looking for activities that move into the summer, community education is the place to start to find out what will be available for families. We also have some sessions of ACT prep left. Most of the kiddos at the high school took it, I think, on April 5th. But as we know, like grading for learning, just because you take the ACT test one time does not mean that you're one and done. So there are some great programs, low-cost programs for ACT prep if you have kids that are interested in taking that and taking it for a first or second time. Eid. So Eid is the end of a month-long fast for our families who are Muslim and celebrate Ramadan. Eid for our Muslim families is much like celebrated a little like Christmas. And I just want to bring up that our Pamoja Women, a local nonprofit that shares the voices of and empowers the voices of East African women, is doing a candy and toy drive to celebrate Eid. So if you want to donate or have some small toys and gifts or candy to donate, the flyer will be on the PowerPoint as well. RCTC is offering a vet tech pathway preview. So if you have a upper high schooler who's interested in the veterinary tech program, April 20th, 10:30 to 12 would be a great opportunity to learn. Our community health services is helping families, one of many opportunities to help get connected to MNsure insurance. It feels like there has been a spike right now in families who are needing assistance and additional supports and things like insurance. We've seen many of the COVID supports kind of move away, so we're seeing a rise again in need. And Community Health Service is just one of the organizations that can help with getting families enrolled in health insurance and dental insurance. I've talked a little bit about the family engagement calendar, but if you have events like the transportation events, I am happy to post these on our family and community engagement page. We do have a Somali Q&A coming up on Thursday night for Somali families, so I'm looking forward to that. And then IMAA is also offering MNsure health insurance applications as they're seeing the rise as well. And they have information in Spanish and Arabic available and translators available for families who are needing support with health and dental insurance. I think I'm getting close to the end. Kindergarten, still time to enroll right up until September 1st, but we'd like it if it was before September 1st as a school district. Mental health resources are still available to kids. We have the virtual consultations available for students who are experiencing some stress in school. These are 45-minute free virtual appointments with a mental health professional. And that is just some of the work that fits into this triangle that what we do with family engagement. Julie Ruzick, did I miss anything? No, that was a big, lots of updates, lots of things. So favorite spring flower, mine is a daffodil. You can put yours in the chat. But that's all I have for you guys. So please let me know if I'll stay on. Irises, I agree, they're so pretty. Let me know if you have any other questions. I'll hang on for a few more minutes. And it was so good to see all of you.